Hello, I think I am live now. So, hello. I'm just going to wait for some people to join before I start going into lots of stuff. I'm just going to put this a bit more centrally as well. Right, let's see how many people. Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining. I'm just going to wait around a little bit for some people to join before I get started. Let's have a look. Okay, cool. I've got it up on Facebook and on Instagram, so I'm sort of monitoring the comments on both. So, hi. Fantastic. All right. Thank you so much for joining, and thank you so much to the King's Head for letting me take part in this. It's a pleasure. My name is Macadie Amoroso, and I'm an actor and writer. Before I go into lots of detail, I'm going to hold on for a little bit, about 5 past, so give people a chance to come along. But if you have any questions for me at any point, please do pop them in the comments. I will be monitoring the comments on Facebook and on Instagram. So yeah, just make sure if you have a question, ask me, so I'm not just rambling on about stuff that you're not interested in. Okay. So yeah. I'm basically going to be talking about my trajectory into the arts as an actor and a writer, and I'm going to be going into a bit of detail about my play called Blue Beneath My Skin, and sort of my connection with King's Head, and yeah, just little bits about that and myself, and sort of as an emerging artist, I guess. So yeah. Cool, more people are joining now, that's good. It's good, so I don't just feel like I'm talking to an echo chamber. Give it a couple more minutes and then I'll get started. For those of you who've just joined, I've said before that I'm going to be talking about myself as an artist, as an actor and writer, and then talk a little bit about my play Blue Beneath My Skin. And yeah, just any questions, please pop up, post on Instagram, post on Facebook. If I don't respond, post again. I'm going to try and keep track of questions throughout. So yeah. It's weird having the two cameras because I got the Facebook camera up here and then the Instagram camera here, so I keep switching between the two. All right, I give it a couple more minutes and then I'll get going. I hope you've all been enjoying the sunny weather that was here last week. It's got a little bit more cloudy and stuff now, but I certainly was enjoying the sun, soaking up them rays. Also, I hope you've all got your beverages. This is a green tea with some mint and lemon. So there you go. Right. I'll just give it one more minute and then I'll get going. But thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited. I've only done one live before this, so I'm quite excited to do it again. It's like a whole new thing to me. Even though it's been around for a while, I'm just slow to the bandwagon, really, I guess. Okay, I'll give it a couple more minutes and then I will get started. Like I said before, if you have any questions, please do comment on Facebook or on Instagram. Just pop up, let me know, and I'll try and answer everything before I get to the end of my chat. So yeah. Okay, right. I think I'll get going because there are people. So thank you so much again for being here, and massive thank you to the King's Head for having me. My name is Macadie. I'm an actor and a writer. I have just graduated from East 15 Acting School on the Acting Contemporary Theatre course, and I have written a play called Blue Beneath My Skin, which I'm going to go into a bit more detail about a bit later. But first, I'm just kind of going to talk to you about my journey into the arts. I'm still starting out, really, but my journey into starting out, if you like. So I kind of decided quite early on, I decided when I was about 12 that I wanted to be an actor, and then I sort of poured all my energy into that. I, did the school plays, etc. I auditioned for National Youth Theatre twice, and then I got in. So keep trying, guys. I then went to a performing arts sixth form called Tring Park, and I was on the drama course there. And I got into East 15 straight after sixth form, which was really lucky. And I was obviously over the moon. But I decided to take a year out just to sort of gain some life experience, really. And I went to Madrid to learn Spanish. Hey, Seb, thanks for joining. And then I ended up taking another year out because my Spanish was non-existent by the time it was time for me to go to East 15. So I was very lucky in the fact they let me defer twice. And then when I was in Spain, I did bits of performing out there. So I sort of fell into this expat community, and I was like doing bits of stand-up comedy, doing bits of poetry, spoken word, and some micro theatre shows, so like 20-minute shows. In English, though, not Spanish. That would be impressive. I can speak Spanish, but not to that level. That's a different skill. And then when I finished in Spain, I came back to the UK and I joined East 15 on the Acting and Contemporary Theatre course. And I've just graduated now. So it's kind of strange to do this talk and sort of look back on those 3 years, having it just ended right now. So that's kind of odd, but it was such a good time. And I went to East 15 sort of with the mindset of like, well, when I was applying to drama schools originally, I was like, oh, I want to be an actor. That's what I want to do. And it was sort of throughout my time in Madrid, doing bits of writing in terms of spoken word and comedy and shows, and then joining the Acting Contemporary Theatre course, which is, I guess, a course more for actors who want to create their own work. I kind of discovered along the way that I didn't just want to act, I wanted to write as well. And at East 15, I got a chance to do a bit of directing as well, which I would love to do again in the future. And it's just sort of helped open up these options that I didn't think about before, or didn't think I would be good for. And yeah, so it brought me to writing a play, which I'm going to get into a little bit. Again, if you've just joined, please feel free to ask questions at any point, or even if you haven't just joined, ask questions and I will try and answer them as I can, basically. So yeah, back in May last year, I went to the Bunker Theatre to see a show called Funeral Flowers by Emma Dennis Edwards, which is a really good show. If you haven't seen it or read it, buy the play, read it, it's great. And I bumped into a wonderful creative. She's an actor, writer, producer. She does it all, Anne Akin. And she took my National Youth Theatre audition, the annual casting audition earlier on that year. And she remembered me when we bumped into each other. And she was like, oh, how is everything going at East 15? And I was like, yeah, it's going good. I'm assistant directing this show that's going to Tristan Bates. And, we've got our Shakespeare thing coming up and all this sort of stuff. And I was supposed to be going to the Fringe at the time. And she was like, oh, that's fantastic. Like, we must keep in touch. So we exchanged details. And then 5 days later or so, she sends me a message out of the blue. And she's like, are you a writer by any chance? And I'm like, well, I've only ever written, say, spoken word or poetry before. And I was like, yeah, I am. And she was like, great, I want to recommend you for this festival taking place in August at the Bunker Theatre. It's called This Is Black. Can I have your email address? And I was like, sure, okay. So I gave her my email address, and she does an email intro between me and Stephen Kavuma, who created This Is Black. A big shout out to Stephen, because without Stephen, I would not be talking to you right now, probably. Fantastic guy who does a lot of work with the diversity school, which he founded. So be sure to check that out. And anyway, so Stephen emailed me back, emailed to the intro between myself, Stephen and Anne, and he was like, oh, so yes, thank you for introducing us. Basically, I'm curating this festival. It's called This Is Black. It's going to be at the Bunker Theatre in August. I'm basically looking for work that's unapologetically Black. It's all about celebrating Black work. I'm looking for something like Misty or Funeral Flowers. Have you got anything that would be suitable? And I was reading this thinking, wow, this is such an incredible opportunity. Like, I would love to be involved. However, I'd never identified as being Black before. I kind of had this strange relationship with my identity having grown up mixed race in a very, very white area and not had exposure to Black culture and not really having that kind of influence in my life. And so I was kind of like, oh, this sounds so good, but I don't know if it's for me. Like, would I be taking up space? Is this something I can be a part of? And also, the main point is I didn't have a play. So I was thinking about emailing him back about this opportunity when I didn't even have a play in the first place. So I kind of just left the email for a couple of days and like, let me just think. And I did some thinking, and I was like, I really want to write something about the feeling that I had in terms of in reaction to that email, kind of being mixed race and not growing up with both cultures in your life. And I didn't see many mixed race stories, protagonists, narratives out there, and I didn't see any that touched on this theme either. So I was kind of like, all right, let me write this. So I started to write, and I focused it on this 17-year-old girl who was abandoned by a canal and then grew up in a white area in a white family. And I decided to make her adopted and abandoned because I thought it'd be really interesting to explore identity when you don't know at all where you've come from in terms of your heritage, and the impact that would have on one's identity. So I started writing, and then I got back to Stephen a couple of days later and was like, oh, this sounds like a great opportunity. I've just started writing this one-woman show that focuses heavily on the character who's mixed race and her experience. I don't know if you'd be interested. And he was like, yeah, this is exactly the sort of thing I'm looking for. And I was like, okay. And he was like, can you send me a full draft? And I was like, I've just started writing it, so I can send you what I have so far. He was like, yeah, do that. So I did. And I had 5 pages at the time, and he read it and thankfully loved it. And we met up, and I told him the whole idea for the story. And he was like, yeah, I would love it to be the 4th play in This Is Black. And I was like, oh my God, I have to now write a play. So I did, but I had quite a lot going on with still being in my 2nd year at East 15. I had our Shakespeare thing coming up. I was also going to Latitude Festival with the National Youth Theatre to do some spoken word shows. And by the time I started rehearsals with the wonderful Janet Etuck, hi Janet, I only had half the play and 12 days in which to get a full play on. I've got a comment here, so I'm just going to check what it says. Oh, thank you so much, Jordan. Oh wow, it's nice. If you have any comments or questions, please do post them, and I'll get around to answering them in between my rambles. So yeah, hi Janet. So when I got to rehearsals, I was so glad that I had Janet there, because she was so calm, and I was like, Janet, but we only have half a play. She's like, it's fine. And so we spent the first week, because really we only had 2 weeks. We spent the first week getting the first half up on its feet, and learning the lines, blocking it. And I had Sunday off in the middle of those 2 weeks, and I was like, Janet, I'm going to write the play. This is the second half. We'll be there by Monday. This is it. It gets to Monday, and I'd written this elaborate date scene that just wasn't necessary, essentially. I had the biggest writer's block on that Sunday. And but it led to me and Janet sitting down on that Monday and having a long conversation of how the play could go, how the characters could develop. And basically, without that conversation, the play wouldn't have been written. So I'm very thankful to Janet there. Not only that, we had to record, there was going to be a voiceover at the end of the play, and it had to be recorded on that Tuesday. And again, I didn't have the rest of the play. So I had to write that scene with the voiceover so that the actor could record it on the Tuesday, and then on the Wednesday write the second half of the play around that scene, because that scene was then set in stone. It was quite crazy. Anyhow, by the Thursday we had the full play. So we had Thursday, Friday, Saturday to get it up on its feet and get it ready for performance. the Sunday for tech and Monday was previews. So it's probably the most stressed I've ever been in my entire life, but good stress, all good stress. So yeah, then previews happened and I did a total of 9 shows at the Bunker Theatre. A big shout out to Chris Sonics and everyone else at the Bunker and their team. Just so fantastic. I'm so sad it's gone. But yeah, huge shout out to everyone who was involved with This Is Black. It was just an incredible experience. And I was very lucky in the fact that not only was I performing it, obviously it was my show, so I could see as I was going along how things were landing and what was working and what wasn't. So on the Monday, Wednesday and Friday of the first week, each of those days had a different ending because I could workshop it as we went along and I could be like, oh, I don't think that worked. Maybe we could try it like this. And then by the end of the 9 shows, it was kind of like, by the second week, I decided on which ending I wanted to go with. And it was just really handy as a writer to have that kind of experience in order to workshop it and actually have it on its feet and have it in front of the audience and get that kind of feedback and obviously ask people afterwards. So then when This Is Black finished and I knew that I had the debut festival coming up, which is the Acting and Contemporary Theatre Courses Festival at East 15, which happens in our 3rd year. We put on a festival of all our own work. We write the shows, we direct the shows, we're in the shows, we produce the festival. It's a stressful but very good time. And I knew that my show was going to be on at that festival. So I was like, okay, it can be better. So I asked a lot of people what they thought, who saw the play. I got other people to read it and I just asked loads of people what worked for them, what didn't, if things were clear or not. And yeah, I had a sit down with my partner and we sort of workshopped ideas where we just like had a day where we just soundboarded them and be like, oh, this could work, no, that could work, or this could be better, etc. And so if you're ever writing a play, I really, really recommend talking to the people you trust and getting their feedback and just asking as many people as possible, because even if they give you some advice and that you don't agree with, you know that you don't agree with it, so it helps solidify your own opinion of it. And yeah, just getting a range of opinions also helps inform then where you want to take it. So yeah, I rewrote it and then performed it at the debut festival at East 15 in February. And this is where the King's Head come in, because they came to watch, and they were offering they had the Stella Wilkie Award, which would be awarded to one of the shows that they thought would be best for a slot at King's Head. And I'm so grateful that they chose Blue Beneath My Skin for a slot at King's Head. So hopefully when theatre gets up and running again and things return back to a normality, you'll get to see it live at King's Head. So that's exciting. I'm going to work on a 3rd draft as well. I've just seen some questions, so bear with me one moment. If theatres remain closed for a while from now on, do you somehow think of writing more plays? Will you be more of a writer than an actress? That's a really good question. I think having written Blue Beneath My Skin, it's definitely given me a taste for writing. And someone actually asked me not so long ago, gun to my head, if I had to choose acting or writing, what would I choose? And this was a painful question because I've always wanted to be an actor. But then when given that choice, I was kind of like, well, I don't know if I would want to never be able to put a voice to characters or have my own voice heard. So it would have to be writing. And yeah, in regards to theatre being closed for now, definitely writing is going to be what's more available to me, and it will also give me the time to get things written. I also would hope, I've just been signed to an agency, so I'm hoping to get some TV and film jobs as well. So we'll see what happens with that. But if not, I think writing will be my main focus, to be honest with you. But this lockdown's been really good in the sense of, I've worked with the Alchemist Theatre Company doing a festival called Writers on Hold, which is all online. It's happening right now, actually. The play called Snatched by Melissa Johns is on at the moment, and you can watch every episode each day of this week. And my one was last week, so I performed little bits of Blue Beneath My Skin. So you can go to the Alchemist Theatre Company Facebook page or website or Instagram, and you can watch all the scenes from Blue there. And you can also watch Janet's series, the Coconut series, because my director Janet had her one up as well. So be sure to check those out. But so I've been doing little bits of writing and performing at the same time, but obviously it's all online now. But good question. Janet, what scene did you find yourself writing first, even before you knew it was going to be put on for This Is Black? That's a good question. I actually started at the beginning. I think I had a very weird thought process into how the play came about, because I was like, oh, there's a situation where, you know, there's this couple together, or maybe they're not a couple, and then my brain just kind of spiraled into this whole, maybe she's killed him, maybe there's been a fight, and then it ended up becoming this whole other thing. So I guess I kind of had a little idea of like a relationship kind of feud, but I didn't know how it would get to that point, or why that would occur. So then I had all these questions that came from that, and then I started at the beginning. The first draft is quite different to the second. It's more talking to the audience, more what's the word, explanatory. And so I started with, actually, you're right, Janet, I did kind of start with the end, but because the first draft was cyclical, so it started at the end and then went into the play, and you catch up at the end. But I kind of did the rest of it linearly. If that answers your question. Please, if anyone else has any questions, do feel free to pop them in the comments. And it was kind of in relation to my own identity. After I did This Is Black, was the first time I'd been able to accept my Black identity and myself as a mixed Black woman. And so, yeah, it was one of those pivotal moments for me, personally, because it just completely shifted my perception of my identity and how I felt towards it, my relationship with it. So yeah, again, thank you to Stephen for having faith in my 5 pages. Janet, how did you decide on the name Blue Beneath My Skin? Okay, so that's a story. So my working title of the play was called Mixed Up, but then I thought it was a little bit on the nose, perhaps. And I was chatting with my mum, actually. Shout out to Jan. There's another Janet, 2 Janets in my life, both wonderful women. And we're having a conversation. I had loads of names written down, and she was just like, what about Blue Beneath the Skin? And I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. But I found Blue Beneath the Skin difficult to say because the 2 THs beneath the. So I was like, what about Blue Beneath My Skin? And her reasoning behind it, which we sort of came to, was, you know, everyone can feel blue, and it doesn't matter what color you are, what race, ethnicity, gender, sexuality, nothing. Everyone feels blue at times, and everyone has their own stuff that they're dealing with. So it was kind of a way of being like, beneath her skin, she feels blue, and that's a universal feeling. It's it's part of being human. I hope that answers the question. Here we go, got some more questions. How have I found performing remotely compared to performing to a live audience? Are there things you've enjoyed / preferred about it? Well, you can always retake. If you're filming something, you can always do it again, unless you're doing it live, of course. So that's been good. And in terms of, but the difference obviously is an audience, and I think you gain so much from having a live audience. Just that each show that I did at the Bunker, for example, and even at the debut festival, each show was different because of the audience. and I was able to gain different insight from each show because of how the audience interacted with it, because of the energy, and as a performer as well. There was I'm really glad King's Head came to the Saturday show at the Debut Theatre, Debut Festival, because on the Friday, the audience for me was really, I found it really difficult to engage. They seemed so low energy that I was having to like try, and I think I was just trying too hard. And it for me, that show didn't go very well. And I learned so much from that show, because I was like, okay, well, if that happens in the future, I can't let that get the better of me. I have to be better as a performer. So I think there's nothing like doing a live show. But again, when you do it remotely, and when you do it filmed, obviously you can retake, and there are different things you can experiment with. Like if you're playing multiple characters, I had to work out how to translate that onto camera because in the show I do the like talks for myself when I'm the different characters, and I was like, does this work on camera? So yeah, there's lots of things to think about. Oh, we've only got 4 minutes left, so any more comments, please post them. I'm going to try and get through these ones. Jordan says, I'm writing a film and play about a guy coming out as queer in lockdown amid final year assessments and graduating, intersecting with an invisible disability and Jewishness. Ideas about queerness and disability and Jewish identity. Wow, this sounds really interesting. Can you tell us a bit more about your writing from personal experience and insight, which you blended with fiction plot points? How would you recommend building a story that people will care about while ensuring it stays honest and authentic? Love that you're smiling throughout. I'm glad it's infectious. That's a really interesting question. I think when you're writing something that's personal to you, it's really important to try and detach yourself as much as possible. I think in the moments where you need to be raw and you need to be truthful, allow yourself to experience that and, put that onto paper. But then you need to, specifically in the editing process, you need to detach yourself from it and be like, that can go. And, we call it killing your babies, which doesn't sound very good. Basically being prepared to get rid of your ideas, because I think as a writer and an actor, you can be very precious about really wanting to hold on to, you've created this and it's wonderful, but sometimes it's not necessary. So being prepared to try and detach yourself as much from it, especially when it's personal, and try and take an objective view, and then ask the people you trust, essentially. Anyone who's close to you who you think will be able to give you an opinion, ask their opinion. Okay, 2 minutes left. I hope that's answered your question. Thank you, Jordan. Great. How did you, this is my mum, hi mum. How did you choose the characters in Blue and their specific relevance in carrying the story? That is a good question. Thanks, Ma. Obviously I started with her as the central character, and in the first draft and when I was writing it, I kind of realized she had no friends. And I was like, she can't have no friends. That's not nice. So I created her best friend, Paul, and he's also mixed race, and he's half Jamaican, half English. And it was kind of to show that there are more mixed race stories out there. There's not just like one mixed race narrative, and everyone's experience is different. So for Paul, although he has both cultures in his life and he has a very strong grounding in his identity, he is gay, and that's not very acceptable in his family. So he has this challenge with his sexuality and his family, and trying to deal with that. So that's how Paul kind of came about, and he's kind of her cheerleader and the one who gives her the honest advice, which I think everyone needs, that kind of best friend in your life. And then the sister and the mum came quite easily. I was like, she needs someone to show how home life is, and the fact that her mum's not very good has never really educated her on her identity and doesn't really know how to deal with it herself. That kind of came from that. There's one more question and then I'm gonna wrap up, because I realize we're getting on for time. Have you ever been in a position to refuse a role? If so, why? Why would you turn down a role? I guess I have, to a degree, in the sense of like, if people have come to me with projects and they're like, oh, like, would you be wanting to do this project, and depend if I've got a clash, then I'll be like, I'm sorry, I can't do that. Generally, I'm a bit of a yes girl. I'm like, oh, you've got a project? I'd love to be a part of that. So please ask me. So no, and unfortunately, like I haven't yet had enough TV and film exposure to be like, oh, all the roles are coming in, I'm gonna say no to this and no to that. But obviously, if I thought that a role wasn't right for the trajectory of my career, if I thought it wasn't right personally or whatever, I would refuse it for those reasons. And obviously, if there was a clash as well. But yeah, thank you everyone so much for tuning in. I think that's the time. So yeah, basically, massive thank you to the King's Head for letting me be a part of this. And thank you all for tuning in. It's been a pleasure. Oh, this has been so nice. Don't forget that King's Head Theatre Online is running all this week at 1 p.m. So make sure you tune in to the other people who are doing lots of inspiring talks and interesting things. And also, you can check out some of my previous work on my Facebook page or the Alchemist Theatre Company of the Writers on Hold thing. But yeah, thank you so much, and hope you have a great day. See how I end this now.